flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. In the Texas Pledge, I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
One invisible.
Roll call of the trustees. Reverend Towers.
Present.
I see you on the screen. Ms. Coley.
Present.
I don't see Ms. Coley on the screen. Mr. Beebe.
She's there.
Present. Building. Mr. Armstrong. Mr. Armstrong.
Here.
He should be on the phone.
He just said here.
Mr. Pierce.
Here.
No,
Here.
There's Mr. Pierce. Mr. Hollinger. Mr. Hollinger. And it appears we have a quorum. The meeting is being recorded. And the first item on the agenda is consider approval of the minutes of the regular meeting for the Board of Trustees held on May 26, 2020.
I move they be approved.
The minutes have been passed to everybody by email. Any discussion on the minutes? Any corrections? I'll take a motion.
So moved.
I'm not hearing anything, so I don't know.
A second.
Mr. Tires moved to approve,
Is,
and Mr. Beebe approved.
anybody out there
It's
can mouth a motion on the screen?
Freddie. Can you turn his speaker up? I hear everybody clearly.
I do too.
So do I.
Trying to get some technical assistance. There's Ms. Cody. Hi.
And does anybody have
Here's
Freddie's
his
cell
son,
phone
maybe.
number? They can send him a message.
Yeah, Debbie does, but he won't answer it. We've tried.
I'll go down the hall and see if I can get him.
I've
Okay.
called him and texted him. He's not answering. So yes, if you could find him.
I just talked to him.
Okay, just gotta turn the volume up.
That's the same computer that Freddie was on a bit, so he's gonna go over there and see if he can fix it. There he is.
Tell General Waiver we could show our approval by a show of a hand if he's waiting for that to happen.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, now we'll start with motion for the minutes.
Mr. Tires made a motion and Mr. Beebe seconded it.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion carries. Chairman's update. We have an opportunity for members of the public to suggest additional topics for discussion or to address topics of interest with the presentation leading 3 minutes. I've received no information that anybody sent an email in requesting that option.
I received no emails.
No emails were received. A couple of items for the board members. A reminder that the board evaluations on the chancellor and internal auditor were mailed out to each trustee. Request you complete and return to HR no later than Tuesday, 21 July 2020. The second item is the board self-evaluations. They were mailed out, and request you complete this form and turn to Dr. Garrett no later than Tuesday, 21 July 2020. The third item is the cybersecurity training. This is reference CTC policy number 294. The email was sent out on 18 June with instructions. All questions should be addressed to Ms. Jordan at 254-216-1168. That's 254-216-1168. For those who do not have a capability to print off the certificate and sign it, contact Ms. Havens and she can print those off here at the office and they'll be available for you to come by and sign at your convenience.
General Waiver, it's my understanding that I was able to sign it electronically and send it to Ms. Jordan. I'm not sure whether it's been received yet or not.
Okay, I don't know if anybody received any email ones back in or not. It's just one
Mr.
of
Chair.
those kinds of things. If you don't have it, we can probably pass those out on the 21st at our next meeting and everybody to sign them.
Mr. Chairman, this is Brenda. I
Okay.
have not received any of that communications.
Debbie, can you make sure that Ms. Coley gets those
Yes,
copies?
I'll resend the cybersecurity. I sent that out a week.
Yeah, I have that one. I
Okay,
don't have the evaluations and the message from the internal audit. Yeah, they may be in the mail.
I think
They
they
were
went out
supposed to be
today, Ms.
mailed
Coley.
out this week,
Okay.
so I
Okay.
don't know. I didn't receive one in the mail either, but I was told they would be mailed out this week.
Okay,
just
then
went
I'll
out
just
today,
wait.
I believe.
Don't do anything. I'll wait.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll follow up with that.
You don't want to stay close.
Looks like it got. Next item on the agenda is the chancellor's report.
I just have a couple of things. We just sent out an email to the faculty staff. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We just sent out a memo to the faculty and staff with the return to campus training. And that will also be required by the Board of Trustees as well as the board of the foundation. So if you haven't got that, Debbie can help you through that. That's an easy process. Or we will present it at the workshop in July. It's a series of slides that you read and then you certify. So we can take care of that either way. Don't worry about it, but it'll come. The second thing is the 4th of July is still an on-go. Ford hasn't pulled the plug on that yet. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the recent advent of the governor's directives to wear masks and not getting crowds, and they've shut down some parks, and as you saw on television, and bars in Dallas area and some other things. So I just saw the mayor put out an edict where anybody in Killeen wants to wear a face mask. So it wouldn't surprise me if they cancel that 4th of July, but we'll see. We're getting set up and we'll be ready for them. And with hand sanitizers all over the place, our parking lots roped off, cordoned off, and our porta potties. The 4th of June, okay. Just as a reminder, when you come to campus for the board meeting and the board workshop in July, you will be required to wear a face covering or face mask. Once we get in and get seated and we can retain ourselves at a distance of 6 feet or whatever, you can take them off to talk and stuff like that. But that's the policy under phase 2. That's the procedure we're using for all the faculty, staff, and students. And we as leaders of that institution need to abide by those as well. So just FYI. And that's all I have to report, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anopoulos. Any questions, Mr. Anopoulos? Well, moving on then to discuss and consider approval of the May 2020 financial statement and investment report. Mr. Liberty.
Yes, sir. Everyone should have received a copy of the financial statements for May. There's really not much to report above and beyond what has been discussed at the last several meetings, but I will point a few things out just to to share that we're going exactly down the path that we had forecasted when all of this started. In deferred revenue, which is a very great predictor of future performance, we had discussed last month that it was down 2.5 million in the month of April 2020 compared to April 2019. And you will recall, I shared the fact that that was something we had anticipated because enrollments are down significantly for the summer semester. And we figured that would continue. That's why the number is lagging so much from last fiscal year. Well, it went from 2.5 million lagging in April to $3.2 million lagging in May. I anticipate it will probably be even a little greater in June, start to level off in July, because by July, the summer term enrollments are already pretty much starting to wrap up. So that is kind of showing you that the trend is for decreased revenue based upon the decreased enrollments due to the pandemic. The other thing that I will share with you is over the last 3 months, our bottom line has gone from $2.6 million positive in March to $2.2 million positive in April to $1 million positive in May. The other thing I had shared with the board from the very first board meeting we had after the pandemic was that this was probably going to be the trend that we were going to see, and it was going to be very hard pressed for the college to remain in the black with any significancy. The hope was, with everything that we put in place and are continuing to put in place to curtail costs, that we would be able to limit that slide in the bottom line as much as possible. We have done that, as you well know. All requisitions are required to be approved by the CFO at the institution, which is not a standard procedure, but it's the procedure now. And we have eliminated quite a few expenditures that we would have been having previously because the word has gone out to all of the departments that we only need to spend dollars on items that are absolutely critical to keep the institution open. So we have limited to that. We also have determined, as I shared with you several months ago, we did a big scan of all of the open positions, and we are taking 100 open positions off the books that we're not going to fill. And if a position comes open, since the time that the coronavirus hit and the pandemic started, those positions are being scrutinized more than ever, and it's very rare that we've actually approved one of those to be filled, even the ones that were live active positions. So we're doing everything we can in our power to stem this decline in revenue and decline in the bottom line. But unfortunately, it's probably going to be more than we can handle. We're probably going to have a year where we're in the red, but we will not be lone soldiers out there. I'd be surprised if anybody is going to get through this year without that happening. Two or three good things going for us is our number is going to be very limited based upon the position we were in before this started and what we have done to keep it as small as possible, number one. Number two, the past 15 to 20 plus years of financial stewardship that we have shown at the institution has put us in position to where we have the financial resources available to stem a loss like this without causing dire harm to the institution. And the slightest bit of good news I'm going to share, it's early, but it's good news. I saw the fall enrollment numbers today. Now you have to remember, we're only through maybe 15 or 16% of that enrollment cycle. But as of that same time frame today compared to last year, we actually are higher enrollments than we were the same time last year for the fall early enrollments. I know it's early. I know that those numbers change very rapidly, and it may not be the case next week or even tomorrow. But the fact that it's good news today, I wanted to share the good news today. That's really all I have to share with the financial statements, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Let me tag on to what Bob has said. You know, we mentioned that those expenditures and those approvals go all the way to the CFO, which is not our standard practice, but we instituted that to bring some leniency to what we're trying to do and to ensure that those things were being done properly. Once it doesn't stop there. Once she approves that or disapproves it, if it disapproves, it goes away. If she approves it, it comes to me for final approval. So I can assure you that it's going to get a second look if it gets to my level. So
I have a question both for Bob
I have a
and for
question
Jim.
too.
In the event that we end up in the red, how much of that is going to be non-spent things that you've had to put in the reserve, or how much of the reserve should we be able to withdraw to cover to keep in the black?
Well, you know, the way the financial statements will come out, you don't actually make a transfer from reserve to report what happened in your financial statements. You actually report it, and then what will happen on the bottom of your balance sheet and statement of revenue, it will show what the prior year fund balance was, it will show the current year loss, and it will show the new adjusted fund balance after the loss. And our number, as it stands right now for net assets, I know I called it fund balance, but I'm an old dog. I've been doing this way too long. It's been called net assets now for a couple of years. It's $128 million, sir. Our loss is not going to be anywhere close to $128 million. You know, my anticipation is $2 or $3 million potentially. You know, the one factor that's the big wild card out there still is GASB 75. The 68 numbers have already come out, and Doug and I have looked at those. They're going to have a hit of about $1 million to our bottom line, and I have already factored that into the May financial statements. Good. I have an estimate out there for GASB 75, but that number is not available yet. So if that number is extremely different than what we had projected after last year's audit, it could affect our bottom line even further. But that's one of those numbers that we have no control over and won't know the answer until they actually publish it at the state level.
Thanks, Bob.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions of Mr. Liberty?
Yes, sir. Hey, Mr. Liberty, this is James Pierce.
Yes, sir.
So on that last piece of information you were talking about, I believe is the 16.5% or something like that. So how many of those do you know are they transferred into CTC?
I have no way of knowing that. The only numbers that I get provided to me on a daily basis are actual enrollments. I don't know if they're current students, new students, or not. I would anticipate that Dr. Garrett could probably have her staff run some reports that would show us if these were first-time ever students. But all I receive is an actual enrollment number, and I don't know if they're new students or current students.
Okay, yeah, because that was one of the things I was thinking about was because the economic hit a lot of people took around here. Maybe they didn't go back to their four-year institution as freshmen and sophomores and said, "I'm going to CTC now." That was my question.
Yes, sir. That's a number that we can sure look at and see if I can. I will. If I'm not sure if Dr. Garrett's on this call or not, but if she's not, I'll send her an email and let her know the information you're looking for, and we'll be able to provide that to you.
And Bob, this is Brenda.
Yes, ma'am.
When would we see the numbers that you were just sharing with Jimmy Tower?
Are you talking about the numbers for the actual final bottom line for the institution?
Yeah.
Well, you know, we're looking at May. We generally run 1 month lagging is
Okay.
what it takes us to
Okay.
provide the data.
Okay.
So our year end is August. And as you know, though, a lot of the numbers that I have just provided you for May are estimates based upon prior year's experience and the fact
Okay.
that a lot of us have been doing this for a long time. But we don't actually, when we close the year out, it will take us until the end of the year when the audit is complete to have a real bottom line for you.
Okay.
So you're talking about December, January.
Okay.
However, I will throw a caveat in there. We'll have a pretty good idea in October, November of what the bottom line is going to be.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's all. That's
I
it.
am on the line, so I did get that request.
Okay.
Bob, has there been any indications from the state legislature that they're going to ask us to return?
Well, sir, we have dodged the bullet currently. When they came out and they asked all of the agencies, they told them that they were going to pull back 5% of their funding. They exempted institutions of higher education and included community colleges in that. That doesn't always happen. It seems like in years past, whenever something was ruled for institutions of higher education, if it was a benefit for us, we were not included. If it was a negative for us, they sure considered us an institution of higher education. They did consider us one this year. And as of right now, there is no requirement for us to return funds. However, I'm not as confident as everyone else that works for a community college is that that's not going to change, especially as these numbers, every time the comptroller releases a new report on revenue for the state of Texas, it breaks a number that has been several decades since it had hit a low that far. Well, sooner or later, the piggy bank has to break. So I am still building next year's budget, anticipating our funding is going to be reduced. Now, that just means we have to scrub harder in what we're doing to build that budget. But the nice thing is, if that never happens, then we'll have a bit of a windfall in our budget, and we should know several months into the year if we can then come back in and do a budget adjustment and potentially spend some dollars if they are needed at that time, sir.
Thank you, Bob.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? I'll take a motion.
I move
So
for
moved.
approval.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is consider approval of Miss Susan Fergus as a foundation board member. Ms. Chambers?
Yes, sir. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. Last week the chancellor presented for me because of my issues, the consideration for the board's approval of Mrs. Susan Fergus for as a member of the foundation board. I believe y'all have her bio in front of you. She is an alumni of CTC, got her RN degree and spent almost 25 years in that field, and retired from Baylor Scott and White Medical Center in Temple as a vice president of the foundation there. And she does currently serve on the foundation for TAMU CT, but she is quite anxious and willing and excited to come and work for CTC to give back to her alumni.
Any question, Ms. Chambers? I'll consider a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is discuss and approval of the exercise to the fourth option period of the contract for property insurance coverage for the period of July the 1st, 2020 through June the 30th, 2021 in the amount of $400,031. Dr. Carter?
You know, I haven't heard Dr. Carter on the call.
She was on earlier.
Because we have emailed several times today, but something, she may be having technical difficulties.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, you got her?
Yeah, thanks,
Awesome.
Bob.
Good.
I had myself muted.
Okay.
I
I
was
was going to
muted.
take care of you, but you can handle it.
Thank
Can
you.
you
Always
teach-
got my
Michelle,
back.
Michelle, can you teach my wife how to do that?
Go team. Again, this is, we covered this item last week at the workshop. It is a routine item. Alliant is one of 3 companies providing our various lines of coverage. However, they are the only company with a renewal date of July 1. This is the final year of the contract for property coverage in wind and hail. So we're seeking approval to exercise that fourth option period in the amount of $400,931.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion carries. Next item is discuss consider approval of the exercise of the fourth option period of the contract for the Lot Vernon and Company PC in the amount of $68,000. Dr. Carter?
Okay. We also discussed this item last week at the workshop, another routine item. This is the final year of the Lot Vernon contract, who has had our business for a couple of decades now. Everyone is pleased with the company. And so at this time, we are requesting your approval to exercise that last option period in the amount of $68,000.
Any questions, Dr. Carter? We'll enter.
So moved. It's Brenda.
Second.
The motion been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is recommending agenda items, announcements of a board member. Mr. Armstrong? Dr. Towers?
I have none.
At this time, sir.
Ms. Coley?
I have just one. I wanted to ask the chancellor, was he prepared, could he be prepared soon to discuss how we're going to bring the early high school students back on campus?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we've been having conversations with
Okay.
Dr. Kraft.
It's just, we can put on the list to talk about it next time.
Yeah, and we will. We'll do it at the workshop.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hollinger? Mr. Beebe?
None.
Mr. Weaver?
Yes.
Dr. Garrett has something that she would like to say. Dr. Garrett?
Go ahead.
Yes, the chancellor asked me to have some research done about the Fort Hood soldier that's been missing, Vanessa Cullen, and she has been a student with CTC as recently as March. So the chancellor asked me to share that with you. Her family is in Houston, and we have a record of that, and so we believe that that is the same person.
Thank you. The announcement of time and location board workshop scheduled for Tuesday, July 21st, 2020 at 1 p.m. and the regular board meeting for July 28th, 2020 at 1 p.m. We have it right now. That will be in the Anderson Center in the main meeting room. Be sure to bring a mask, and if you have any concerns about meeting in public, we need to get that squared away before you get there. we can make an accommodation for phone calls in or even the webinar if necessary.
I think I was the only one that discussed my desire to wait, but I don't have any concerns. If the majority, I will support the majority of the board.
I think it would be a good idea if we could get together. We have an obligation, according to state law, to make sure that we do the evaluations and do the documentation we need. And for that, we'll have to have an executive session. It's going to be very difficult to do an executive session by webinar, so I would suggest that we try to meet in person.
Yeah, I don't have any problems with that.
Okay, good. Thank you. Is there any other items you brought up? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made. All in favor, vote with your feet. Thank you all for participation.